A former CSU football player turned Super Bowl champion is back in Fort Collins trying to teach safety to young football players. I joined John Howe at one of his practices.
And volleyball is on a roll in conference play. We'll let you know if they can keep the momentum for the rest of the season.
And in this week's episode of In Case You Missed It, see what happens when you try and cannonball into a pool covered in ice. This is CTV Sports.
Welcome to CTV Sports. I am Sky Huston, joined this week by Ryan Hillman. And Ryan, not a lot going on in sports this weekend, especially in Colorado.
Yep, it seemed like every team had a bye. CSU, Denver Broncos, my whole fantasy team.
CU probably wanted to buy.
Yeah, it was a quiet weekend in sports.
Ugly. All right, but that does not mean that we don't have a show for you tonight. We have a big show, lots to get to. CSU hockey and volleyball both had games on Friday, so let's get you caught up on what happens in those games on this week's Around the Fort. All right, let's kick it off with the Rocky Mountain Showdown on ice. The CSU hockey team took on CU at the Pepsi Center last Friday. The Rams have not lost to CU hockey since they began playing them there in the last 3 years. But the game on Friday did not have the start that the Rams were hoping for. The Buffaloes scored 2 goals in the first 6 minutes. But the Rams did not even flinch, tying the game after the first 2 periods. And then in the third period, CSU ran away with the game, scoring 3 goals in the final period and winning with a final score of 5-2, preserving the Rams' perfect record against the rival Buffs in the last 4 years now. The Rams' next game will be on the 26th against Arizona State. Moving on to volleyball, the Lady Rams took on 2 more conference opponents last week, the Air Force Falcons and the Boise State Broncos, and the Lady Rams took care of them both. On Thursday, the Rams wore pink for breast cancer awareness and swept the Broncos in 3 sets. And then in the very next night, they swept the Falcons as well. The Rams are now 12-1 at home and are tied with UNLV for the conference lead. The Rams continue conference play against Nevada and San Diego State this week. And sticking with volleyball, one of the team's best players is off the court now. Miss Dana Cranston is being recognized for her off-court accomplishments. She was selected as one of the finalists for the 2012 Senior Class Award, CLASS being an acronym for Celebrating Loyalty and Achievement for Staying in School. The award focuses on 4 categories: community, classroom, character, and competition. Coach Tom Hilbert said, quote, "Dana is the very deserving person of this award. She's an excellent student, great in the community, and has incredible character." And from all of us at CTV, we want to congratulate Dana for representing CSU in such a great way.
The discussion about safety in the world of football has been one of the hottest topics in sports lately. Concussions and the safety of players is a huge concern. One former Colorado State football player and NFL Super Bowl winner is doing his part in Northern Colorado to teach safety in Pop Warner football to someday lead to a safer NFL.
Every little boy's dream is to someday play in the NFL. For one man, it came true. His adventure started out to be rocky, but once he arrived at CSU, things changed.
Day before camp started, they called me up. I remember sitting there, they called me up and said, "John, we got 103 guys coming. One guy's not going to make it. Can you be here?" I said, "I'll be there." So I loaded up my Bronco and I drove out that night. The next morning I was on a Division I practice field.
Howell played 4 years at CSU, earned all conference his senior year, and helped the Rams win the 2000 Liberty Bowl. In 2001, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers drafted him, fulfilling his dream.
He immediately became a special teams guru, backing up John Lynch. Ended up starting the last year there at Tampa Bay. Was a Super Bowl champion my second year there in 2002. So that was obviously far exceeded my expectations.
Howell retired from the NFL in 2006 and is now focusing on changing the safety in Northern Pop Warner football.
And our philosophy is, hey, while these kids are young, let's teach them the proper way to play the game. Our fear is that freshman steps onto the field or the practice for the first time, not knowing what to do, and he's up against big, physical, fast kids. That's what's dangerous.
Howell knows that if teaching the right way to tackle and block at this level, it could lead to a safer NFL.
We're a small part of it, you know, the 200 kids that we coach and teach every day, but that's our goal. That's what I like. So I tell the kids, hey, don't tackle like you see the guys on Sundays tackling. Don't do that. Leaving your feet, you know, leading with your head. That's not how we tackle. That's not the proper way to tackle. So we certainly hope that we see, you know, the game change once these kids get older, and hopefully other coaches out there are doing the same thing and they're teaching the proper way to tackle.
John Howell, the man with the dream of playing in the NFL, that is now giving back.
For information on John Howell and the Northern Colorado Pop Warner Association, go to nocopopwarner.com. Coming up, KCSU's Megan Conner joins us in studio to talk some sports with us. We'll get her thoughts on the Broncos and see how far they can go this season.
Cook foods to the right temperature using a food thermometer. 3,000 Americans will die from food poisoning this year. Keep your family safer. Check your steps at foodsafety.gov.
Ryan, he's Scott, and we're now joined by KCSU Sports Director Megan Conner. Thanks for coming on. She's the beat writer for the CSU volleyball team. So guys, let's start with that. The team is rolling through conference play, now tied for UNLV in the conference. Guys, how far do you see this team going?
This team is a really good team. They're great at home, 9-1 at Moby, 1-6 though on the road. If they can just keep their momentum like they do at home on the road, I see this team going into the second round in the NCAA tournament.
Yeah, I would have to agree with that. It seems like they just had a pretty big hiccup at the beginning of the season, which is, yeah, it seemed uncharacteristic of them. But last season they did something pretty similar against Wichita State and Denver, just losing to inferior teams. But now they've got that momentum back, they're rolling. So I think for the rest of the season, they could easily roll through conference play just like they did last year.
I agree. Plord and Page are finally on their game, and I think the sky's the limit for this team.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, I know, Megan, Ryan, you guys are both probably huge Broncos fans.
Yes.
Not so much myself, but that's all right. So this weekend, probably a little boring for you. You know, they were on a bye. But this coming week, the Broncos play the Saints. You know, they gave the Chargers some trouble. They've given the Packers some trouble. Mm-hmm. But after that, the Broncos have a pretty easy schedule for the rest of the year. I mean, they got the Chiefs twice. They have the Raiders again, the Chargers, the Panthers, the Browns. How far do you see this Broncos team going after this first gauntlet of games?
Well, like you said, they have a pretty easy schedule after this week, and they have had a rough schedule so far. It's been kind of unfortunate for the Broncos, but they're getting better every single game. This Saints team, though, is not one to be underestimated. They did start off pretty rocky, but they are going to come out with a fight for sure. I see this Broncos team winning the AFC West, but I do see the Texans winning the AFC as a whole.
Yeah, I agree. Drew Brees is back to his old ways, that's for sure. But the thing that concerns me about the Broncos right now is we're not a first-half team. We need to correct that. If we don't, we won't make the playoffs at all, I think. But the chemistry has changed and gotten better each week. So I see this team going divisional, maybe even AFC Championship against the Texans.
Yeah, I mean, that's an optimistic view, but I think you're absolutely right. I mean, the Saints really know how to put up points. That's one thing that they have not forgotten how to do this year. So I think if the Broncos can stand up to them, keep that defense rolling like they've been able to, I think they're set, actually.
This will be a true game to see how our secondary is.
Yeah, I think so.
All right, guys, final topic. Lance Armstrong was officially stripped of all 7 Tour de France's today. He lost all his endorsements as well. Do you think he's getting the fair, or do you kind of feel sorry for him? Megan, take it away.
This is a rough topic for me. You know, I'm kind of on the fence in the middle on this. I think it's great what he accomplished, and he's a great philanthropist and raised a lot of money for breast cancer awareness, but he's a cheater. And so it's kind of like, would he have accomplished all that? Would he have raised that much money if he hadn't cheated? So I think it's somewhat fair. He did raise a lot of money, and that's not going to be taken away from him.
All right.
I think one of the most interesting thing is he took 15 years worth of drug tests and passed every single one. I mean, if the system can't catch him after that many drug tests, I don't really think it's him. I think it's the system. And what he was able to do outside of the sport, he raised $470 million for cancer research and cancer awareness. I have so much respect for him as just a human being. I don't think that any stripping of any titles can really take away from that. I think he's just going to be one of the great people.
I agree. He'll always be the face of bicycling.
Absolutely.
All right, well, last week we showed you a 14-year-old kicking a 63-yard field goal. This week we have a high schooler kicking one even farther, in this case, in this week's In Case You Missed It.
We come from different places, uptown, but when we live united, we create real lasting change in the education, income, and health of our country. Real change won't happen without you. So give, advocate, volunteer, Live United. Sign up at liveunited.org.
All right, we would also like to thank Megan for coming on. You can catch her on KCSU throughout the week. But it is now time for our favorite segment called In Case You Missed It, where these stories are the weird videos and stories that you might have missed from last week. So let's start with another long field goal. Last week we showed you an 8th grader hitting a 63-yard. Yeah, that's the NFL record, so it's pretty impressive. But this high schooler decided to hit a 67-yarder. High school. I can't even make an extra point.
What are these kids eating? And the leg presses they're doing nowadays. Oh,
yeah,
my.
This kid's eating his Wheaties. And one of the even more impressive things, this wasn't just some field goal. This was to tie the game, put it into overtime. Talk about pressure. I mean, this kid seems like he's got it.
I
Go
can't
to
wait
Boise,
to see him
boy.
in the NFL. This kid and the kid from last week.
Yeah.
I can't wait to see the new NFL record.
Love it.
All right, now to the next video. And we're going across the globe to Russia. You know, Scott, it's always cold there.
Always.
They got the cool fuzzy hats.
I have 3.
I
love
have one.
them.
I love them.
Absolutely.
So here's a guy attempting to jump into his frozen pool. Yes, that is a sheet of ice on top of it. After a little salute here, he jumps up. And Scott, what do you think happens next? He breaks the ice. B, the ice breaks him. Or C, a bear comes out of nowhere.
You know what? I really have no experience in this field of body ice breaking. I've never seen anybody try to do it because I don't know that anybody I know would try to do it. So I'm just going to go C, bear comes out of nowhere, because I like bears.
You know, you take C, I'm going to take B because this dude is a boss. I know it.
But that's the ice breaking him. And it happened. Oh.
Ouch. Come on, son.
He fully planks. Look at that. You know it's painful when the body goes completely rigid after he hits.
He had to at least be in the hospital for a week.
Put him on injured reserve. He is done.
Yikes.
All right. Now, athletes with sponsorships are nothing new, but for a British Olympic diver, Tom Daley, his sponsorship is unusual. And unfortunately has become a bit of an embarrassment, and you will see why when you see where they put their logo. So this here is Tom Daley, and he's sponsored by British Gas.
Wow.
Is that on purpose?
You know, I think it's just trying to catch your eye.
Like, is that shock value?
I mean, it's catchy.
I don't understand
I just hope
this.
that flame isn't flammable.
Yeah, you would hope so.
Watch out.
Maybe it's not my cup of tea, but any publicity is good publicity.
This could become, the next time he dives, this could become a YouTube sensation.
Probably.
We called it. We called it.
Right here, you heard it first.
All right. Well, that's our show. If you missed any of it or you want to see it again, check out our CTV11news.com tomorrow to see this show and any episode of CTV Sports you may have missed.
Also, be sure to follow Ryan and I on Twitter, as well as our Twitter, CTV Sports. You can also like CTV Sports on Facebook.
Don't forget, the football team is back in action this weekend against Hawaii. And folks, it's an orange out.
Love orange outs. Tradition. Gotta love it. Yeah. All right, and in honor of the orange out, we put together a montage of some old clips from back when the Rams were the glory days. And of course, winning. And of course, we had to put over Fum Song.
Yeah, unfortunately, a lot of you new Rams don't know this song, the Fum Song, so we decided to bring it back in honor of the orange out on Saturday. So we'll leave it with you, and we'll see you next week.
College days and tell you where to go. Aggies, where your knowledge is, and Boulder to spend your dough. CC for your sissy boys, Utah for your times. DU for your ministers and drunkard school of mines. Don't send my boy to Wyoming, U, a dying mother said. Don't send him to old Brigham Young, I'd rather see him dead. But send him to our Aggies, it's better than Cornell. Before I'd see him in Boulder, I'd see my son in hell.